Welcome back to Same Bright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful basket neckline top with ruffled flace sleeves. This top is very gorgeous and beautiful, as you can see right here, and this is what I got right here. This flace sleeve is actually double, but I decided to make only one ruffle sleeve, but the technique remains the same. I'll be sharing with you the tips and tricks to making this beautiful ruffle sleeve stand the way it's standing right here. The ruffle sleeves is double, so that means you are going to use this same technique I'm going to teach you in this class to create double ruffle flace sleeve for one sleeve. Here you can see the neckline, the basket neckline, which is the yoke part of this dress. You can decide to design your neckline the way you want it. I actually added some little beautiful basket design for mine. Here is the back piece of this dress. The back piece has a zipper, and this is the curvy part of this dress, as you can see. So I'll be teaching you how to make this curvy part on this dress in a very simple way. So let's jump into this tutorial right away. You're going to place your tape on the shoulder line and mark your chest line, your bust point, your under bust, your waistline. Then you count 6 inches below your waistline. That is the full length of this dress. Here I am ruling all my lines across. These are my vertical lines. On the shoulder line, I'm going to take my shoulder divide by 2. I'll place it on the chest line. My neck width is 3 inches. I'll come down by 1 inch to connect my slanted line. You rule a straight line for your armhole. Get the midpoint of your armhole, go in by 3/4 of an inch for the front armhole, connect with a straight line. On the chest line, you take your bust circumference divide by 4 and mark and complete your armhole. Here is the shoulder line, chest line, bust point, under bust, waistline, and the full length. On the bust point, you are going to mark your nipple to nipple measurement divide by 2. That is your bust span divide by 2. You mark it on the waistline on the full length line for your dart leg. On the waistline, I'm creating a dart of 0.75 on both sides, which is 1.5 inches all together. Then I'm going to create my basic dart. On the waistline, you are going to mark your waist circumference divide by 4. Then add your 1.5 inches of that. Then you are going to close up the sides from the chest line to the waistline. Then on the full length, you will use your hip circumference divide by 4 and close up the side of this pattern. The next you are going to do is to impute your bust dart. My bust dart is 2 inches, so I got the midpoint of the 2 inches, came out a little bit by 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to connect to the chest line. The center front will be on fold. I'm going to mark my actual neck width, which is 4 inches, and my actual neck depth is 3.5 inches. So the width of this neckline is 4 inches and the depth is 3.5. I'll connect the neckline with a free hand. Make sure you connect the neckline so it will be very rounded. Then you are going to place your tape on the shoulder line and mark your yoke line. My yoke line is 6.5 inches. Then I'm going to make a dotted line on the yoke line, 6.5 inches. Then the neck depth, I used 8 inches. I used 8 inches for my neck depth. So I took all this measurement from my shoulder line. I'll go ahead and connect a sweetheart neckline from the yoke line to the depth of the sweetheart neckline. I already created the yoke line, so we are going to create a princess dart. So I'm going to show you how to create this princess dart. I placed my curved ruler to touch the point of that yoke line. Then you come out by 1 inch to accommodate the princess dart. Princess dart is ready right now. So the next is the under bust contour line. You go over to the under bust and take your under bust divide by 4. Whatever remaining, you mark 0.25 in front and the rest at the outer part. So I love to use this method to contour my under bust. You can use any method that is familiar to you. So I will connect from the under bust to the full length, and the shaded part of this dart, that is what I'm going to cut off to contour my under bust. The side of the pattern, come up by 1.5 inch. Then at the center front, you come down by 1 inch. Then connect this way with your curved ruler. So you can see how I'm connecting it. This is unfold, and we are done with the front pattern piece. So I'm going to label them F1 and F2. Then we are going to cut before we prepare the yoke. So I'm going to cut all the way down. I'll come to the side of this. I'll keep cutting. So I'm going to cut through the darts like this. Make sure you follow the lines of the dart accordingly. I'm closing up my bust darts. After that, I am going to continue cutting my pattern. I'm going to separate the yoke. Then the yoke, we are going to redraft the yoke because of the basket neckline piece. Here I'm cutting off the dart, and make sure you cut out the darts accordingly. So the bodice is ready right now. We are going to move over to the yoke piece. Here I brought a brown pattern paper. So brown pattern paper is usually good for making basket piece. I place it on fold. So you have to place your brown pattern paper on fold, making sure the center front piece is on fold. Then secure with your pins. Next, you are going to trace out the pattern, the yoke on the brown paper. I have taken away my pins, and this is the yoke. Now we'll begin to mark the basket line. So I'm going to highlight the shoulder line, the center front neckline first. Next, you are going to trace that yoke line, that straight part, not the sweetheart part. You trace it and get the midpoint from the neckline to that sweetheart. Then on the shoulder line, you get the midpoint too. And on the other side of the shoulder line, you also get the midpoint too. So what we are trying to do is to mark the first basket neckline. So you just freehand a rounded neckline to touch that midpoint. Next, you come over to the sleeve, then get everything, the midpoint of what you have on the sleeve. I'll do the same on the side of the yoke sleeve too. Then from that point, we are going to connect all the way to that point, the yoke line point we made earlier, back to the midpoint of the sleeve. So that is how we got the rounded line. For the straight lines, you take the measurement of what you have from that point. I have 6 inches. I am dividing by 4 because I have 4 lines. So I'll just mark 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. 6 divided by 4 gave me 1.5. So on this other side, I'll also mark 1.5. After marking, dividing, I'm going to connect the first 1.5 to the midline of the armhole. Then we are going to take the measurement from that point to the center front. I got 8 inches. I divided by 3 this time because I've already ruled one of my lines. So 8 divided by 3 gave me about 2.75. So we are going to connect the upper line and the down line this way. I'll also do the same. I'll mark the 2.75 on the down part, and I'm going to also connect the points to the upper part this way. So you can just choose any measurement of your choice right here. It depends on the style of the basket line you want to create. Here is my yoke, and the yoke is ready. So we'll go over to the back piece right now. Here is my center back, and I'm going to take from my shoulder to my chest line, and from there to my waistline. So I counted 2 inches because of the bust dart. Then I counted 6 inches from the back length for my full length. After ruling my lines across, here is the shoulder line, this is the chest line, this is the waist, and this is the full length. So these are the lines you need for the back. The back is actually very simple. So the shoulder line is 7.5. I came down by 1 inch. The neck width is 4 inches. I'll connect and connect like this. I'm going to get the midpoint for the armhole, go in by 0.5 for the back armhole, connect with a straight line. On the chest line, you mark your bust circumference, divide by 4 and complete your armhole. We'll come over to the waistline. On the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference, divide by 4, add 1 inch of my dart, and then I'm going to get the midpoint of what I got. Whatever you have there, mark it on the chest line. Connect your dart leg straight from the chest line all the way to the full length line. The dart is half inch on both sides, and I'm going to create my basic back dart. This dress is going to have a zip. I'm contouring by 1 inch, and I'll connect all the way down just to take away the zip bulge. I'm going to replace that 1 inch for the zip bulge, then replace what I have on the chest line by the side before I close up the sides. Then on the full length, you use your hip circumference, divide by 4 and then connect. I'll come up by 1.5 inches and come down by 1 inch like I did for the front, and I'm going to connect my top like this. For the yoke line, I am going to place my curve ruler from that point at which the armhole meets the straight line and connect all the way to the chest line like this. So the back piece is ready right now. The neck width is 4 inches, take note, and the neck depth is 2 inches for the back. And I'm going to connect the neckline accordingly. Here is the yoke for the back, and I'm going to extend the dart to touch the yoke line. This is B1, B2. I'll go ahead to cut out this pattern accordingly, and then we'll start to create the basket neckline for the back as well. So I kept cutting, as you can see right here. This is the yoke line, and I'm going to cut out the zipper bulge line, then cut out the darts. Here the back piece, I've splitted it into 2, the B1, B2, and this is the yoke line. Now I'm going to get my brown pattern paper as well, and we are going to cut out the yoke line. So I placed my yoke on the brown pattern paper. We are going to cut 2 pieces of my yoke right now. Here I'm done cutting, so I'm going to take off this so we'll be able to create the yoke design. I'm going to take the measurement of what I have on the neckline, just like I did for the front, but I decided to just mark 1.25. For the back, I use 1.25. On the down part, I first marked 2 inches, then I marked 3.5 inches. I marked 2 inches on this other side and marked 3.5 inches. So I'm going to connect these lines this way. On the armhole, I'll connect the both sides. So whatever I do on this side, I'll do on this side. So on the armhole, I'll also get the mark 3 inches and connect. I came down by 3 inches, and I'm going to connect. This design is just very simple. Just keep doing what I'm doing here. You'll get it right. So at the center back, I'll mark to 2 inches. Just 3 points is required. Then I'm going to get the midpoint. You get the midpoint of the shoulder line like this, just like we did for the front. Now we'll begin to connect the points. I'm connecting the first line to the mid shoulder line, the second line to the tip of the shoulder line, and the third line to meet the first line. I am going to do the same for this other one. Exactly what I did on the left, I'm going to do on the right. This is my yoke line for the back. Now we are going to start cutting this pattern. So I've already cut my pattern pieces on fabric. I have my lining and my fabric, and I'm going to place notches. So you can decide to hairstay this fabric. I added 1 inch for my zipper and 1.5 inches on the side. So I made notches on the waistline at the underbust, so it will be very easy for me to stitch. Here I've already padded my front piece. I'll go over to the machine to stitch. Here I'm done stitching my bustier. Of course, you know how to go about this part. So this is the lining and this is the bustier. So to get that beautiful shape at the down part of this dress, you are going to put the fabric and the lining together and secure with your pins. I am making sure I arrange everything before I cut. So I'll come up by 4 inches on the left dart and go in by 3 inches on both sides of the dart. Then I'm going to connect that curve. I believe you understand. So I curved it in depending on where you want that curvy part to be. So I just made sure I curve it in. So after curving it in from that dart, I'm going to trim it off accordingly. That before you trim this off, the lining has to be placed wrong side to wrong side with the fabric. That is the right way to place before trimming. Now the front dress is ready. We are going to join the back pieces B1, B2, lining and fabric. I also cut two pieces for each. I'll advise you to hairstay your fabric, okay? So I'm going to join them on the waistline and stitch. After stitching, the down part of the back is ready. I'm going to match the shoulder seam lines for the yoke line together. So you match them together before we stitch. I'm going to use my seal tape to tape it down now. Here I am taping it down. I'll also tape the other side down as well. This is how you are going to join the shoulder seam lines for the yoke together before we proceed to the sewing. Here is the front and this is the two back piece. I just labeled them. Then I've already cut my strip 2 inches width. I'll fold in half inch like that and fold it again. So let's go to the machine to demonstrate how this will be sewn. We are going to sew the straight part of this yoke first, the straight part from the neckline to the sweetheart neckline before the rounded part. On the machine, I fold in half an inch and fold it again. So that is how we are going to stitch the basket part. I'm starting from the center front to stitch. So I want to demonstrate how this will be done. I'll fold in the half an inch and stitch by the side of it all the way down. I'll stitch all the way down. Then I'm going to also stitch the other side of it all the way down as well. Then I will cut off accordingly. Now I will use the same method to stitch the rest of them. After stitching, we are going to stitch the rounded part. So I'm still using the 2 inches width of fabric right now. I'll fold in half an inch like I did for the straight part. I'll place it right on top of the first line to stitch. I'm using the same method I used to stitch the straight part, but just that I'm following the curvy parts for this. I kept curving it this way. I kept following the curve like that till I got to the end. Here I am almost to the end of the first line. I will go over to stitch the other side just like I also did for the straight parts. Here I'm done with the first line, so I will use that same method for the rest of them. Here I'm done with the whole yoke line. So I'll just turn it to the wrong side and cut off any excess I have on the edges. On the neckline, I kept cutting out all the excess fabric coming out. Next is to pipe the neckline. I'm still using the 2 inches for the piping. So I'll go over to the machine now. I will place it wrong side to right side, just like you pipe your bias neckline. That is what I'm doing right here. So right side of the fabric to wrong side of the yoke line. Then I'm going to stitch in half an inch to the end. I've gotten to the end of it. I'll cut out the excess fabric and then we are going to turn it to the right side, fold in 1/2 inch like this. I'll continue to stitch. So I kept stitching like this until I got to the end of my neckline. Here I've gotten to the end of the neckline. After stitching to the end, I brought the same 2 inches piece. I will stitch it on the side for my zipper. So I'll just go ahead and fold it in 1/2 inch inwards and then sew down. I'll stitch it all the way down. This is for the zip. I'll cut off the excess I have right here, and I will repeat the same thing I did on one side of the zip for the other. So this is how it's going to lay. The yoke is very much ready right now, together with its zipper overlay. Now we are going to get the main bustier to stitch in the yoke accordingly. Of course, you know how to go about the stitching of the yoke. I'll just sew it in. After sewing the yoke, I'm going to bring the lining. I will place it right side to right side to wrong side of the yoke, then follow the stitches and stitching. Here is what I got after I'm done stitching the front piece. Here is the back piece. I will sew in the back piece, and this is the zipper point. After sewing the back piece, we are going to sew the lining. So I'll just pick up the lining and place it right side to wrong side of the yoke and stitch in. The lining has been stitched, and this is what we have. So we are going to place right side to right side and shaping the size of this dress. After shaping it, this is what the size looks like. So next we are going to reduce our lining with 1 inch. I'll mark 1 inch all the way down to reduce the lining. The lining is supposed to be shorter. Here you can see me cutting the 1 inch all the way down to the end. Here I am done cutting. Next we are going to do is to flip it right side to right side and stitch the down piece. I am going to stitch 1/2 inch all the way down, but make sure you pin the seam lines accordingly. All the seam lines are supposed to match. I secured with my pin on each of the seam lines like this. Then I'll go over and stitch 1/2 inch and also top stitch. After stitching, I flipped all my seams to the part of the lining. I'm going to top stitch to the end. Once you are done top stitching, this is what you are going to have. So I will give it a good press. Here you can see me giving it a very good press to retain the shape. This is what it looks like after I'm done ironing. Next we are going to sew our zip. I'll sew my zip. The zip has an open end, okay, so I'll just open it up and stitch my zip. Here is my zip. I've stitched it. Then you can go ahead and weave or serge the zip. This is the front piece of this dress. Now we are going to take the measurement of our armhole and then stitch the sleeve. The tip of my shoulder, I measured my armhole. I got 9 inches. So the 9 inches multiplied by 2 for the full armhole gave me 18 inches. Since we are cutting a full circle, you divide by 6.28. That will give us our radius. So my radius is 2.86. Now I'm going to add my pleating allowance. So I will multiply by 2.5. If you want it very full, multiply by 3 or even 3.5. So for me, I got 7 inches, and the length of my flay is also 7 inches. Now I'll fold my fabric into a full circle and use the radius of 7 inches. Because you know how to fold a full circle, so the whole length will be the radius plus the length, which is 7 plus 7, 14 inches. So I just folded 14 inches right here. Now from the tip of this folded point, we are going to start marking 14 inches. Mark 14 inches all the way down like this. I'll go ahead and cut that off. So I've not cut the radius yet. I'm going to make a little pinch at that point, open it up because I want to go ahead and stay. So you have to stay this way before cutting out the radius. After staying, I'll now go ahead and fold it again just to cut out the radius. So I'll fold it the way it was before from that point I marked. Now we are going to cut 7 inches, 7 inches. Here I am marking the 7 inches, which is my radius. After I'm done staying, I'll go ahead and cut it out. So this is me cutting it out like this. So after cutting it out, we are going to open it up. Okay, so you open it up like this. Then I'm going to make a notch on one end. That will be the shoulder part of the sleeve. And the armhole part of the sleeve, I'll mark 4 inches. So the armhole is going to be little. So I'll taper it into the bigger parts. So I'll go ahead and trim that part off like this. So it's going to actually be smaller on the armhole parts. Then I'll also make a notch at that armhole part, and that is how we are going to lay this sleeve and pleat it into the dress. Next, you are going to place the lining below it. So whatever fabric you are using, just place the first one below it like this. Make sure you place right side to right side of lining, and fabric has to be right side to right side. Then you trace out the circle radius right there. Make sure you also secure with your pin, and go ahead to cut the lining following the shape of the men's sleeve. So after that, you make a pinch at that circle. So you'll be able to follow the chalk line and cut out the circle accordingly. So I'll go ahead and cut it out this way. After cutting it out, I went ahead to cut out half an inch on top. So this half an inch I'm cutting out is the stay. So it will be easy for us to stitch it to the armhole. So make sure you make clearance for the armhole, because the stay I'm using here is a medium stay. You can also use a hard stay if you want, if you can navigate around it, but I used a medium stay, not too light stay. So I went ahead and cut out half an inch where I'm going to stitch or pleat in. I'm going to sew with your crinoline. I'm sewing with 3 inches crinoline and my hemming gum. So on the machine, I'll lay hemming gum on top of my crinoline. Here you can see what I got right there. So after that, I will flip all my seams and top stitch. I'll flip it to the side of the crinoline and top stitch. Quickly go to top stitch right now, then I'll bring it back and give it a good press. So after ironing, we are going to stitch to the armhole. I'm going to pin the down part to the armhole. That is the first thing you do, right side to right side. Then you are also going to pin we are going to pleat it in like this after pinning the shoulder line. So here on the machine, I'm going to stitch all the way from the armhole shoulder line. So I just took my time to stitch from this point. So as I'm stitching, I'm pleating. That is how I'm going to stitch this part. So I'll keep stitching and pleating in like this. So I continue this process. I'm pleating on the armhole. Okay, so we are pleating directly, but I'll advise you to first of all serge the armhole. Okay, I mean the flay itself. Make sure you serge the tip and the armhole tip before you sew it in. Make sure you weave it for a neat finishing. You are going to weave them separately. Then I want you to note that this is only one sleeve I pleated in. Please, the sleeve is double. That means you are going to produce this same pattern of circle 4 times. 4 times, they are going to be equal like this, 4 times for the both sleeves. So if you are making a double flay, that means you are going to put 2 together and stitch together before you pleat, or you pleat in one and then place the other on top and pleat in, but make sure you weave. So I kept pleating it in like that until I got back to the armhole. So once I got back to the armhole, I top stitched at that point. You can see what I got right here. So this is just for only one sleeve, take note. And make sure you set before you stitch in this sleeve. So if you need a double of it, just place another one and pleat under it, or you can pleat the both of them together. So that is how we come to the end of this tutorial. The next you are going to do is to take off the brown pepper. You can use water to take it off. You can take it off gently the way I'm taking it off. And that is that. I believe this tutorial was helpful to you. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe and turn on your notification bell. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye.